UFC Fight Night, Dolidze versus Hernandez from the UFC Apex this Saturday night. We currently have 11 fights on this card. Last week, man, ooh, what a night for us. 10-1 for that Fight Night card with Tatsuro Taira and Hyung Sung Park in the main event. I did not do a full card recap for that. I just felt like the card actually played out really well. It's just, it was in the Apex, and I mean, again, Ribovic, Brenner was great. Duncan, obviously, with a huge win for us. We had Chris Duncan beating Mateusz Rebecki. Great night of fights. Did not make a recap for that card. If you want to see the recap, come back. Let me know in the comment section down below. I can't do it after this Hernandez versus Dolidze card. But nonetheless, though, we got 11 fights this week. Again, we went 10-1 on last week's card, and we went 7-2 on the PFL last week. And speaking of the PFL, on Monday, tomorrow, we're going to have our PFL Johannesburg full card predictions. Go make sure to check that video out again tomorrow here on the channel, probably 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern. And also, make sure to check out our UFC best bets either on Tuesday or Wednesday here on the channel. Probably Wednesday, we will have our UFC best bets again for this Dolidze and Hernandez card. Shout out to Neil Magny, by the way, hitting as well, man. We did really well on the best bets, really well on the card as a whole. Let's move now to the first of our 11 fights in this card. Also, main channel, Greedo plays MMA daily MLBS bets and college football, NFL coming up soon. Okay, yeah. First fight, ooh, banger. Something about these Apex cards, and starting with the fights of the year. Oh, man, last week, Piero Rodriguez picking up a huge win to kick off the card, and now we get Gabriela Fernandes, Julio Stoliarenko. Oh, my goodness. I've been waiting months for this fight. Gabriela Fernandes, 10-3. Actually, no, this is, I apologize. Gabriela Fernandes, I keep forgetting, is coming off of the Kong Wang victory. We did not see that happening. Nobody saw that happening. Is that a fluke? I don't think so, because I still don't think Kong Wang is just that good. I know she won her last fight over Ariane De Silva, which is solid, but I don't know. We'll see. I think a really good grappler is going to be Kong Wang. There's another hero there because Gabriela Fernandes, right, submits Kong Wang in the second round. She actually knocks down Kong Wang prior to that. But Fernandes, with the biggest win of her UFC career, goes to Kong Wang's home country of China, goes on a main card of a fight night in front of 14,000 people, beats Kong Wang. How does the UFC reward her? Welcome to the warehouse in Las Vegas. I don't get it. I don't get it. Why are we still in the Apex? I don't know. Yeah, Gabriela Hernandez, though, with a really big victory. Interesting, right? Because she was 0-2 in the UFC going into her third fight in the promotion where she beat Carly Judas. I guess that fight's aging well because Judas is coming off a couple wins in her own right, beating Coyote in her last fight in New Orleans, Louisiana. Fernandes, though, lost to Jasmine Jasdavidius, lost to Teresa Bleda. I get Jasdavidius, Bleda is like, eh. And then, obviously, back-to-back wins over Judas and Kong Wang, one fight of the night in the Judas fight, and then one performance of the night in the Kong Wang victory. The UFC rewards her from going on and beating a arguably top 15 fighter to one of the worst fighters on the roster at 125 pounds, Julio Stoliarenko. I don't know how Julio is still in the UFC. I don't. It's probably because she beat Molly McCann, but, you know, Molly McCann sucks at fighting, too. Julia's last fight was a loss. She got finished with 8 seconds to go via TKO against Luana Carolina. That was in February of 2024, so we have not seen her in approximately 18 months. She's 2-6 in the UFC. Her victories are over named fighters. I cannot lie. Jessica Rose Clark and Molly McCann. She just doesn't fight all that often. She fought once in 2023, once in 2024, and likely now once in 2025. How does she still have a UFC contract? I don't know. I remember when Stoliarenko got brought into the UFC. The second time around, I do remember her Ultimate Fighter stint. Lost to Leah Letson, was it? Yes, lost to Leah Letson and on the finale card. Regardless, though, Stoliarenko, they brought her back to take on Yana Kuninskaya, Yana Santos at 135 pounds. Yana Santos won, and then Stoliarenko just hasn't been able to find any footing in the UFC. So I guess she's 2-5 in this recent stint. What does Julia do? She looks for arm bars, and that's it. Okay? Guys, Gabriela Fernandes has grappling. I'm here to tell you, though, she's just gonna strike here. Well, okay, in all fairness though, like, she got taken down in the Bleda fight and the Jasdavidius fight, and sure, she showed off her grappling in the Kong Wang fight, where she was getting outstruck before she knocked down Kong Wang. But I think we're going to see the striking game continue to evolve in this fight. I really think so. Because, I mean, you don't want to be on the ground with Stoliarenko. That's just a Joe Rogan line. Watch out there. You do not want to be there with Julia Stoliarenko, right? You actually don't, though, because getting a takedown if you're Gabriela Fernandes, who's only done it in the Carly Judas fight, or I guess, yeah, really, that's the only fight she's landed a takedown. You know the jiu-jitsu is there with, I believe Cesar Carneiro, right, is still the jiu-jitsu coach at MMA Masters, I think, or is it Valverde? It's one of the two. Anyways, Fernandes, you know the grappling and the jiu-jitsu is going to be there. I don't think she's going to pursue the takedown, because why would you? By going for a takedown in this fight, if you're Gabriela Fernandes, you're only allowing Stoliarenko back in the fight, because Stoliarenko's probably not going to get a takedown in her own right, because she's not very good at that. And like what Jessica Rose Clark did, if you take her down okay, you're going to leave your arm available to get armbarred. Okay, it just makes sense to keep the fight on the feet for Gabriela Fernandes, and she should be able to outstrike Stoliarenko for 15 minutes. I believe she'll get it done. I'm going Gabriela Fernandes to kick off the card by unanimous decision. We move on to our next bout in the welterweight division. Uros Medic takes on Gilbert Urbina. I will say it now, guys. There's a lot of fights in this card with pretty big favorites, and a lot of fights that kind of have easy picks. We'll go over every single one of them. There are some fights where I am split on, like 2. Those are later on in the card, all right? Uros Medic, Gilbert Urbina. Uros Medic. Like, this one's not tough. I don't know how Gilbert Urbina is still in the UFC. And this will not be a line. This will not be the last time you hear me say this line in this video. I said it for Stoliarenko. I've said it for Urbina. Guys, this card is filled with a bunch of guys who need to win to stay in the UFC. So Urbina is the second case of that. I don't think Urbina is going to stay in the promotion. And guys, for the most part, when you do hear this, this guy needs to win to stick in the UFC to keep his contract going, usually it's not the best thing to hear. You don't want to bet on a guy, for the most part, who is fighting for their contract. You would think, he's got to win to stay in the UFC, so he's going to fight extra hard. No, guys are going to fight extra hard anyway to win fights in the UFC. It's not like you're going to fight even harder because your contract's on the line. You're going to fight the same that you fought before. Every fight's big in the UFC, even if it is in a warehouse at the UFC Apex. So here's the thing about Gilbert Urbina, Uros Medic. Gilbert Urbina is not very good. His only wins are Orion Cosce, and look how much success Orion Cosce had in the UFC. I've had as much success in the UFC as Orion Cosce. Actually, I probably could have beat Blood Diamond. I've wrestled. I could probably beat Blood Diamond in a 3-round fight. Probably. Actually, probably not. But if I got like a year training camp to fight Blood Diamond in an MMA fight, I think I could do an okay job. I'm so serious. Because I don't want to get too off track here. But I just wrestle Blood Diamond the entire time. I wouldn't throw a single punch in the feet, okay? I would literally try to go all Torres Finney mode and just try to I would literally just try to backpack him the entire fight, which is not Torres Finney, but I would wrestle and try to take his back. Anyways, my point being, Gilbert Urbina's only victory is over a guy whose only victory is Blood Diamond. Okay, Urbina's 1-2 in the UFC, but if you count the Ultimate Fighter, he's 2-3. So you say, you give him a victory. Well, his win's Michael Gilmore, who may have been the worst UFC fighter of all time. I don't know why Dana was so enamored at the time about Michael Gilmore. Oh, this kid stepped in at short notice. He was like 35. Anyways, Urbina lost to Trayshawn Gore, got knocked out. We just saw Gore get outstruck for 15 minutes by Adolfo Vieira. Urbina then lost to Brian Battle because Gore got injured for the championship fight. Okay. He beats Orion Cosce, and then he gets knocked out by Charles Radke. Radke knocks him out in the first round. Yikes. Uros Medic, 10-3 professionally, 4-3 in the UFC. This guy got knocked out by Puna Soriano. I keep forgetting that happened. That's horrible, man. No disrespect to Puna Soriano, but you really expect Uros Medic to beat Punahele Soriano in 2025. And Punahele Soriano knocked out Uros Medic in 31 seconds. Soriano now with back-to-back victories over Miguel Baeza and Uros Medic in the UFC. That's crazy. I'm going to look away from that. Medic, if you take away the Puna fight, you look at a submission loss to Jalen Turner, a submission loss to Mertzbeck or Belai, I still can't say bro's name right. It's whatever. I appreciate you in the comment section telling me how to say his name, and I still messed it up. I apologize. Regardless, though, Uros Medic's losses aren't that bad. Gilbert Urbina should not be in the UFC. He shouldn't. And this is the fight where, okay, if he loses, we're going to get him out of here. So I believe Medic should dominate. You know, the only way that guys have been able to beat Medic has been through grappling, and that kind of is Urbina's thing. Kind of. That was kind of what he was hyped up on in the Ultimate Fighter show. I know he got the submission over Michael Gilmore, but again, anyone could submit Michael Gilmore. Like, legitimately, I think I would have a chance to submit Michael Gilmore as well. Right, you get me on a, yeah, well, actually, I think, no, I would never fight 85s, though, and whatever. That's neither here or there. I don't think Gilbert Urbina is going to be able to take down Uros Medic and submit him. I believe Uros Medic sees a huge advantage on the feet in this fight. I saw Charles Radke knock down Gilbert Urbina twice in the span of 5 minutes. I don't think Uros Medic is going to have much problems in this fight. I think he'll knock out Urbina pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm going with the doctor, Uros Medic by first round knockout. Trained by day, Joe Rogan podcast by night. Give me Uros Medic by first round knockout victory over Gilbert Urbina. And now we got a complete banger in the third fight of the night. Jocelyn Edwards, Priscilla Cachoeira. So pumped. So excited. I just, something about a Priscilla Cachoeira fight, that's what gets me excited. That's what gets me to sit on my couch and watch UFC, is Priscilla Cachoeira fights. Jocelyn Edwards should win the fight. I'm sorry if I didn't hype up the prediction at all here. Jocelyn Edwards is going to beat Priscilla Cachoeira by unanimous decision. Guys, I've been waiting so long for Priscilla Cachoeira to get cut. I know that's like, that sounds harsh because I'm asking for someone's job to get terminated. Something about Priscilla Cachoeira rubs me the wrong way, okay? It's probably the fact that she's cheated multiple times in her fights. She misses weight. She tries to thumb her opponent's eyes out. I don't like Priscilla Cachoeira. She has won 3 out of her last 5 fights, meaning she will not get cut if she loses here, but she is definitely losing here. Cachoeira is coming off a knockout victory over Josiane Nunes. Josiane Nunes should never fight in the UFC ever again. Okay? I don't know if she's going to. I don't know how you can be that bad at fighting. I'm sorry if I'm getting real negative about this card, but this is what they have me doing with the UFC Apex. Hey, I wasn't very positive on last week's card, and we went 10-1. Okay, so I'm just objectively criticizing this card and the fighters on the card. Jocelyn Edwards, hey, this is not a fighter who's going to be a champion. I believe she actually is in the top 15, which just goes to show how bad the weight class is. I wouldn't think Jocelyn Edwards deserves to be ranked, but she 100% is, isn't she? Jocelyn Edwards is ranked 14th in the weight class, yet Daria Zelziakova is ranked 15. How is Miesha Tate 13? It's just, this is such a joke. Josiane Nunes is 15-6 professionally, 6-4 in the UFC. I didn't know beating Tamaris Vidal and Chelsea Chandler gets you ranked, but it does. Booked against Mayra Bueno Silva on this card. Bueno Silva had to pull out. A winnable fight for Edwards, probably would have lost that bout. Now gets a much easier opponent, and an opponent who just can't wrestle. In Priscilla Cachoeira, she gets dominated on the ground in every single fight that she's in. Like, guys, Gina Mazzani saw a lot of success grappling Priscilla Cachoeira. Cachoeira ultimately knocked Mazzani out, but anyone can grapple Priscilla Cachoeira. You just can, right? Jocelyn Edwards should be able to do just enough, right? Like, we saw the Tamaris Vidal fight. That was a grappling-heavy approach from Jocelyn Edwards. Chelsea Chandler, she actually finished Chelsea Chandler in the first round, but right, Jocelyn Edwards should be able just to wrestle her way to victory here. Cachoeira, I will give Zombie Girl credit in one spot. It's the fact that she hits hard. She hits hard and she throws. Like, that uppercut she landed on Josiane Nunes, that was impressive, right? She's going to throw a lot harder than a bunch of fighters at 135 pounds. She does present somewhat of a, somewhat of a different stylistic approach because she's actually looking for finishes. And in all fairness, Jocelyn Edwards has put together back-to-back finishes as well. I don't think we get a finish here. I just think we see Jocelyn Edwards riding out top control for most of this bout. I think she's going to wrestle just because Cachoeira cannot wrestle. I could see a submission out of Jocelyn Edwards, but guys, who am I kidding? I'm not going to bank on the fact that a women's fight in the Apex is going to get a finish, and that's not sexist. That's just playing the data and playing the odds, right? The odds of finish here aren't very high. I'm taking Jocelyn Edwards to beat Priscilla Cachoeira by unanimous decision. I think it's a fairly easy pick to make. She's a better grappler. Yes, Cachoeira throws hard, but I believe Edwards should be able to weather the storm and win by decision. Let's move on to our next bout in the bantamweight division. We've got another fighter probably fighting for his contract, I think. And that would obviously be Toshiomi Kazama taking on Elijah Smith. I think Elijah Smith is going to be a really good fighter. He's very green still, don't get me wrong, and he is still a work in progress. And normally I would criticize matchmaking like this because Elijah Smith is going to be a massive favorite in this fight for good reason. Elijah Smith is a minus 500 favorite. Kazama is coming back at you at plus 370. That is fair. I am actually not against the matchmaking at all for the main fact that Elijah Smith just needs to have fights like this. He just does. He needs to go out there and he just needs to beat up on a bunch of cans. The guy's 22, you know? Elijah Smith is 22 years of age. His only loss comes back in March of 2023 against Reyes Cortez on Fury FC. This is a guy who got his UFC contract on the Contender Series against Aaron Tao, wins a 3-round decision against him, beats Vince Morales in his last fight by unanimous decision in a fight that wasn't as convincing as I would have liked it to be. I thought Elijah Smith easily got the nod, but not a one-sided beatdown like a lot of people expected. So that's why he needs to have fights like Toshiomi Kazama. Toshiomi Kazama is a horrible striker. He just is. He's god-awful on the feet. His only pathway is on the ground. And I think Elijah Smith is more than a capable wrestler. We saw that on the Contender Series. We've seen that on his way up through Fury and through different regional scene fights. We saw that, obviously, in his win against Vince Morales. He is a more than capable grappler. He is more than willing to wrestle with you. Kazama's not going to just have his way down there. Because ultimately, that's Toshiomi Kazama's only pathway of victory. We were disappointed in Elijah Smith's last performance because he did not chase the finish, because he was not able to put away Vince Morales. He's going to put away Toshiomi Kazama. And if he doesn't, that's when I'm going to start sounding the alarms a little bit. Now, if he still wins, it is what it is. But then we kind of have to really weather our expectations with Elijah Smith. Because right now, guys, Elijah Smith isn't even 23 years old. Okay? It's a young prospect at 135 pounds. Who looks like he's got all the makings to be really good. I would expect his career to either end at 145 pounds or 155 pounds, probably 145, maybe 155. He's just young. He's still coming into his frame. That's okay. He's a huge favorite in this bout, minus 500. 97% of voters on Tapology are going with the American and Smith. Again, for good reason. I think he needs to get a finish here, and check out our best bets later in the week. Maybe we will have a play for Elijah Smith knockout, just because of how bad on the feet Kazama is. Look at his bout so far in the UFC. I'll take you to the road to the UFC finals where he takes on Rinya Nakamura. Now, Nakamura knocked out Nathan Fletcher last week. I was a little hesitant on Nakamura. Still picked him, but I wasn't really confident in that fight. Anyways, Nakamura against Kazama knocks him down twice in the span of 30 seconds, eventually gets the knockout finish. In the Garrett Armfield fight against Toshiomi Kazama in Singapore, Armfield knocks Kazama out in the first round. Kazama fights Charlampus Gregoriou in his last fight. I thought he was going to lose. Kazama goes 1 for 9 on his takedowns, gets dropped in the second round by Gregoriou. You think the fight's over. Gregoriou's dominating in the second round after Kazama had, top control in the entire first. Gregoriou knocks him down, dominates the second round. Kazama doesn't even throw a single strike in the second round, but finds a way to submit Gregoriou with the triangle chokes. Gregoriou tired himself out trying to chase the finish. What the hell are we doing? It was a disgusting performance from Sarah Longo's own and Charlampus Gregoriou. Made me question, do you actually train with Merab Dvalishvili and Aljamain Sterling? Whatever, man. I don't think Gregoriou is still in the UFC. Shout out to one of the, definitely not the first UFC fighter from Cyprus. I'm blanking on the first UFC fighter's name from Cyprus, but yeah, way to go. There's a guy that Bisping fought. Oh my God, I'm blanking on his name. Regardless. Charlampus, literally this guy I'm talking about. Oh my goodness, this is the guy that, I don't know if Bisping fought him or Rockhold fought him. Bisping was making fun of Rockhold for beating him. Philalampa, I believe. And then Bisping called the guy Philalampa who, I think, when he fought Rockhold. Anyways, it's Cristianos Philalampa, I think was the first Cyprus fighter. Anyways, Gregoriou should have beat Kazama. He should have. And I don't think Elijah Smith's going to have that much trouble with the grappling out of Kazama either. Kazama gets knocked out everywhere he goes. He was getting knocked down in the regional scene. How is he even in the UFC? Elijah Smith first round knockout, and this should not be difficult at all. I want to believe in Elijah Smith. I said this when this guy was in the Contender Series. I think he's got all the makings of being really good. I hope I hit on this one. Because the guy, again, athletic freak of nature, good defensive wrestling, striking game's evolving. I really believe in Elijah Smith, and I think this is the perfect way to build him up. This guy can be a star someday. Give me Elijah Smith first round knockout. Okay. Definitely fighting for his contract, Rafael Cerqueira. Oh man. but possibly, and I've said this a lot in this video, but it has applied more than once today, maybe the worst fighter in the UFC, Rafael Cerqueira. He's so awful. Guys, this is the one fighter in the UFC who doesn't throw punches. He doesn't. Guys, I question, and I have this thought a lot when I watch fights and I watch fighters and even like guys who are plus 700 dogs. And now I've never been in a fight camp. I've never prepared for a professional mixed martial arts bout in my life. But if I'm trying to think of a huge dog. Well, we'll use Cerqueira as an example in a second. But if I'm like, who's been a historically huge underdog in a fight? And you just know you're gonna lose. Say you're, I don't know. I would use Marcus McGee, Piotr Jan. That's not a really great example. I'll just say, like, okay, we'll take it all the way back. Say you're Alexis Davis fighting for Ronda Rousey, preparing for Ronda Rousey, right? No, you're Megan Anderson preparing for Amanda Nunes, even better, right? You know how good Amanda Nunes is, and you know, okay, I'm getting the title shot, but what is this gonna look like? What are you actually training for? Because, you know, I always think about this too, like, when you actually get in there, and Megan Anderson gets subbed right away, and she looks like a ghost, like, what have you been preparing for the last 12 weeks? Like, have you actually envisioned yourself in a championship fight against Amanda Nunes? Or, like, are you just going out there and winging it? Like, what does your training camp look like? What does week 1 look like? What does week 11 look like? What are your coaches telling you? Like, are your coaches actually telling you, hey, like, you got a chance to beat Amanda Nunes here? So I'm going to apply this to Rafael Cerqueira. And because of how he's fought his first 2 fights in the UFC. So it's one thing for your first fight in the UFC to go out there and get knocked out against Ibo Aslan. Made me believe a little bit actually in Ibo Aslan. Thanks, Cerqueira. That guy, Aslan's not very good. I will demonstrate Rafael Cerqueira, Ibo Aslan. Aslan's teeing off on Rafael Cerqueira. Okay, Aslan starting fast in Abu Dhabi. Cerqueira goes in there and just decides, I'm not going to throw. I'm getting blitz. I'm not going to throw back. High guard. And basically, Aslan pushes Cerqueira back up against the fence, and Cerqueira, again, gets backed up, and Aslan just starts trading. Or, not trading, because nothing's throwing back at him. But Aslan just keeps throwing haymakers. And Cerqueira is just high guard, not even doing anything. He doesn't land a single strike in the fight. And I don't know, I think the referee was Mark Smith, I could be wrong. Whoever the referee was, Rafael, fight back. It was Mark Goddard. Fight back, Goddard. Oh, sure. I fight back. And Cerqueira just goes, and then, he gets knocked out. So, okay, that's the thing. Okay, maybe jitters, right? You lose your first fight in the UFC. Oh, no, okay, that's fine, right? Like, again, you cannot get ready, I guess, for that first UFC bout. You don't know what that's going to look like. Okay, that's fine. He gets another fight, obviously. Modestas Bukauskas. In Seattle, Washington. Don't know how he deserved to fight in front of a crowd. Probably because they knew Bukauskas was going to knock him out. Cerqueira does the same thing. He throws a little bit early, but then as soon as Bukauskas starts blitzing him and starts throwing, Cerqueira he folds. And he gets knocked out. So my question is, what was Cerqueira preparing for 6 weeks? Like, seriously, what are you preparing for? Then you actually go out there and you do that. So my question now is, what's the mindset in the Cerqueira camp going into the Julius Walker fight? Is it legitimately, okay, like, Rafael, like, hey, like, you know, we think you're going to win this one, man. Like, just go out there and show us what you're doing. Because, like, again, questions. Is Cerqueira actually winning sparring right now? I genuinely don't know. He's training out of Galpo Dolidze over in Bahia, Brazil. Same camp as Jason Almeida. Same camp as Eduardo Maura. Who else at this camp? That's about it, honestly. But okay, but there's fighters here, right? Like, there's 2 other UFC names in this camp, right? You're like, what's the mindset? What are they telling this guy? You know? Same camp. Oh, Felipe Franco's at this camp. Okay, Contender Series guy this year. We'll see. He's kind of got a fraudulent record, but he looks like he's a good fighter. I don't know. We'll get into the Contender Series soon. Anyways, like, what's the mindset in that camp? It's like, okay, dude, like, you know, you have done nothing in the your first 2 fights in the UFC. We think you got it this time. I don't think Julius Walker's that bad. You could have argued that Julius Walker beat Alonzo Menifield. Was that a bad fight? I don't know how to put that fight. Because it wasn't the best. It was kind of eventful. It was just sloppy. It was a real sloppy bout that Alonzo Menifield wins in Seattle. Same card where Cerqueira last lost. Here's the thing, though. Alonzo Menifield lets go like he did in Julius Walker lets go like he does in the Alonzo Menifield fight. He's beating Rafael Cerqueira, obviously. because Cachoeira's going to throw nothing back, so you're not concerned about any punches being thrown your way, back at you. It's just, this is an easy fight for Julius Walker. It just is. I know he lost his first fight in the UFC against a borderline top 20 guy. Walker beat Myron Dennis before heading into the UFC. He beat Bevon Lewis. Again, two guys who have been around. Obviously, Bevon Lewis, former UFC fighter. Myron Dennis, obviously, right? Former Bellator fighter and former longtime LFA fighter. Just lost to Tyrell Fortune in his last fight. That's something. Right? Like, Julius Walker will easily mop the floor with Rafael Cerqueira, who legitimately might be the worst fighter in UFC history, because he just doesn't throw anything back. And now he's been knocked out in back-to-back fights, and you're 35 doing this. Walker is 9 years younger at 26 years of age. Give me the American in juice box. Julius Walker to beat Rafael Cerqueira by first-round knockout. Let's go on now to the main card and to the middleweight division. Erceg versus CLD Christian Leroy Duncan. You got a veteran here in Erceg who's actually now put together back-to-back victories. He's coming off a huge win over a former champion, Chris Weidman. But Anders is coming off a W. I gotta give Anders a lot of credit. This is not a guy who's fighting for his contract like Cerqueira, like Urbina, like Stoliarenko. Right? Anders has been around. He's main evented UFC cards before. It's just a really tough fight for him here, guys. Christian Leroy Duncan is legit. I do believe that. And I think, right, watching how Andre Pulev beats Nick Klein yesterday does help my point with CLD, right? Christian Leroy Duncan in his last fight at the O2 in England completely shuts down Pulev. It's not competitive, you know? CLD did what Nick Klein should have done, you know? Kept the gas tank, able to fight in the, second round and in the third round, just again, be able to and be prepared to fight a full 15 minutes. He made Pulev look really bad. And Pulev knocks out Nick Klein yesterday. I don't think Pulev's the best. I think he's going to lose probably his next fight because he just will get a higher ranked guy. I just think Klein is extremely low level, and the only reason he was in the UFC was because he told Dana White that John Jones is the greatest pound for pound fighter in the UFC. Again, I picked Klein to win. I'll say that was the one pick I got wrong yesterday. But CLD's win is aging all right, though, right? Because Pulev, when he throws, he has power, right? CLD's losses in the UFC are Arman Petrosyan, which isn't great, and then Gregory Rodriguez, which obviously is understandable. Went the distance with Gregory Rodriguez. Rodriguez really dominated CLD on the ground. Really wrestling heavy approach at a RoboCop in that fight. But Leroy Duncan will get Erceg, who's 17-8, coming off of back-to-back victories over Jamie Pickett and Jamie Pickett's retirement fight. A very emotional bout, man. It was just right up there with me, with Lauren Murphy for real emotional bouts. Emotional retirements, man. Oh, I'm choking up right now thinking about it. Man. And then Erceg, Chris Weidman was Erceg last fight. Weidman knocks down Erceg. I forgot that happened in the first, but Anders eventually just takes over in the second round. Weidman really heavily pursued the finish in the first round, or just he kind of went for it in the first round and then went out on his shield, I guess, in the second. Anders finished him via the ground and pound. I mean, shout out to Anders for the career turnaround, man. Like, right? Lost 3 of 4 to Muniz, Junior Park, beat Kyle Dawkins, Chris's brother, and then lost to Marc-Andre Betillot. And right now, back-to-back victories over Pickett and Weidman. Sure, 2 unks, 100%. You get an actual fighter now, it's going to be a problem, right? Like, Anders is getting out of the realm of just beating guys his own age, because you can't forget Anders is 38 years old, right? He's 38 years old. He's not getting any younger, and CLD is 30. Christian Leroy Duncan is fully in his prime. I'm not telling you CLD is ever going to make that title run. I'm not telling you CLD is going to be a ranked fighter for years to come. But if there was ever a time where the Christian Leroy Duncan train has to leave the station, oh man, it's right now. It's got to be right now. Coming off a victory over Pulev, you get now probably the biggest name guy you thought. Maybe Gregory Rodriguez has a bigger name, but Anders, right, making his 20th walk in the UFC octagon. This is by far your biggest opportunity. Go out there. I know it's in the Apex, but still, go out there and beat a guy like Erceg. CLD is a massive favorite in this fight. He is a minus 500 favorite. That number is probably going to only continue to go up in favor and towards, again, Christian Leroy Duncan. I'd expect him to dominate the fight, man. I really would. I think on the feet, Christian Leroy Duncan is so much more advanced than Erceg. Guys, I know, again, it was, a flash knockdown, but Chris Weidman knocked down Erceg in his last fight. Jamie Pickett knocked down Erceg. Marc-Andre Berriot knocked out Eric Anders. Anders has been knocked down in 3 consecutive fights, and 2 of those are Jamie Pickett and the All-American Chris Weidman. His last name's not Chris Weidman, but the All-American Chris Weidman. Come on now. Come on. Christian Leroy Duncan's going to win this fight. Will he get a finish is the question. Anders actually is kind of tough to put away. His only losses by finish are against Muniz subbed him, and I'm trying to figure out who knocked him out. He was done on the stool against Thiago Santos. Again, those are not bad outings. You know, those aren't bad guys to get finished by. I think Leroy Duncan is going to go the distance with Eric Anders. However, I do believe it is somewhat one-sided. I do believe Christian Leroy Duncan is going to dominate the fight. I think he's going to win every single round, and I think he keeps the fight standing. Even on the ground, too. Like, Anders, I think CLD can hold his own on the ground. However, that's just not what he does, so I don't expect CLD to try to take the fight down. This is going to be a striking fight, and Christian Leroy Duncan should dominate it. I'm going to go with the English fighter in CLD to beat Eric Anders in the biggest win yet of his career. I'm going Christian Leroy Duncan by unanimous decision. Next up in the bantamweight division, we've got Miles Johns taking on Jean Matsumoto. Matsumoto coming off of that loss to Rob Font. I mean, a very huge step up in competition in Matsumoto's last fight. Another guy who's coming off of fighting on that Seattle-Washington card that was main evented by Henry Cejudo and Song Yadong. I remember seeing that fight, and we took Rob Font. I don't remember if Font was an underdog or not in that one. I think he was. Yeah, he was. I took Font as a dog. I didn't understand the step up in competition. I believe Font's been rumored to fight Raul Rosas Jr. at Noche. That hasn't been officially confirmed yet. Don't know if it's happening. Again, another spot where it's like, all right, if that fight actually does happen, huge step up to go take on Rob Font, who is a veteran, and he's not at the Calvin Kattar point of his career yet. Obviously, both those guys fighting at the New England Cartel. Anyways, Miles John gets John Matsumoto in this one, Matsumoto. Matsumoto's good. He was undefeated going to the Font fight, 16-0. Had beaten Dan Arquette and Brad Katona so far in the UFC. Again, I just didn't like the matchup between him and Font. Matsumoto had a result to his wrestling a lot in that one, obviously. Just couldn't do enough, and really just couldn't do enough damage because Font was outstriking him when that fight was on the feet. Miles John's the guy who's just been a mixed bag in the UFC. I understand he's 6-3, but I feel like every time Miles Johns gets a big opportunity, he loses, and that wasn't more apparent in his last bout against Felipe Lima. I'm not telling you he was supposed to beat Felipe Lima, but you're an underdog. You go into Tampa to fight that fight. And Felipe Lima, who obviously is a very well-credentialed prospect, who's coming off a Peyton Talbot loss now. That's a fight where, again, if you can go out there and win, you're really establishing yourself as a top 20-ish guy. Miles Johns loses it by decision. Felipe Lima dominates the fight, really wins that fight down on the ground. And that's exactly where I think John Matsumoto is going to win this bout. Well, okay, Felipe Lima outstruck Johns, but the point being, the threat was always there for the takedown in that Felipe Lima fight. Felipe Lima was always threatening it. He was clinching up a lot, and that's what Lima does in all fairness. I just think if Matsumoto is going to want a takedown against Miles Johns, it's probably there. And on the feet too, guys. Miles Johns to me has never been impressive. Oh no, he was impressive really early in his UFC run. I'll tell you the span of time where I was impressed with Miles Johns. After he beat Kevin Natividad and he beat Anderson Dos Santos in back-to-back fights. I remember when he fought Dos Santos on the undercard in Houston, Lewis gone. I remember watching that fight. I'm like, okay, like maybe Miles Johns, maybe we got it going here. Like I was like, damn, like Ricochet is really impressive. If you get that, you get that. I mean, guys, tell me Miles Johns doesn't look like Ricochet. He does. It's crazy. Like it's actually there was. Okay, I'm sorry. I got to bring up a picture of Ricochet real quick because he looks just like Ricochet, and it's just Ricochet obviously from AEW. It's just the resemblance is insane, dude. Like, hold on. Okay, tell me this is not Miles Johns. Tell me that's not Miles Johns. Like, come on now. You see it. That's the first that always pops into mind for me when I see Miles Johns. Anyways, that's like the only 2 times I've been impressed with Miles Johns. I was really impressed after the Anderson Dos Santos bout, and I was like, all right, like here we go. He's gonna get Miles Johns gonna get John Castaneda, and Castaneda subs him. And then okay, beats Vince Morales, and then he beats Cody Gibson, beats Douglas Silva de Andrade. The problem with a lot of these fights, guys. The Vince Morales fight, the Cody Gibson fight, and the D Silva fight. Johns actually wins all 3 of those. They are the most boring fights you've ever watched. They're just horrible. I reenacted the D Silva versus Miles Johns fight before Jean's last bout against Felipe Lima, but I'll reenact it again. Both guys throwing overhands. That's the entire part of this fight. None of them are connecting, but they're both, like, they can't get into range because in the apex, the sparring fight. So they're both just jab, 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 jab. Obviously jabbing at nothing because they're just, they're throwing feints because they, it's an apex fight. They don't want to actually do anything. Oh, we're gonna throw it out here. And every once in a while, Johns would lean in, kind of do what he does. He kind of leans, big overhand, and sometimes he'd land. Anyways, they did that for 15 minutes. It was horrible. I remember this fight so clearly because I was gonna actually bet on D Silva, but for some reason I couldn't get the bet off in time. It just wasn't working, so I couldn't bet on D Silva. Thankfully, it didn't work. Anyways, I remember being so unimpressed watching that fight because I had D Silva, and they just did the same exact thing for 15 minutes. They kept throwing their overhands. Anyways, the fight ends, and by the way, as the fight's going on, both these guys just start going, they just yell at each other, and the fight ends, both these guys are yeah, it's just, oh my god, they're pretend like they just went to war, and Miles Johns wins. And it's just one of the worst fights ever. Just because of what they were doing, the antics of that fight. The Cody Gibson fight sucks. The Vince Morales fight sucks. And just what happened to Miles Johns when he actually pulled the trigger? The Anderson Dos Santos fight's actually the only fight where you're ever going to see that. Yeah, he knocked out Kevin Natividad. He doesn't pull the trigger at all in that fight. He just kind of lets go at the end, and he knocks out Natividad, who was not good in the UFC. My point being is I don't like watching Miles Johns fight. I just don't. So John Matsumoto is going to beat him. And also, Matsumoto, okay, here's the thing. I think he can outstrike Miles Johns because, for one, the output's going to be there for John Matsumoto. He's going to just throw more than Miles Johns. And yes, Johns could get lucky and land a big shot, but the guy's so knockout dependent, it's crazy. He's so knockout dependent / boring decision dependent. Matsumoto's actually going to throw output. He's not going to let Johns just outpoint him in a boring power showdown. And Matsumoto will be able to wrestle if needed. So, all things considered, the Brazilian should win this fight. Going John Matsumoto by unanimous decision. Again, this guy beat Dan Arqueta, beat Bracatona. I'm not wowed at all by Miles Johns. This is easy for me. Give me John Matsumoto by unanimous decision. Let's go on now to our next main card fight. Andre Touchy Fili versus C-Rod Christian Rodriguez. Guys, I present to you the Christian Rodriguez problem. Here it is. C-Rod, known for destroying prospects, never letting any prospect through, and then losing to guys he shouldn't lose to. Christian Rodriguez went on a streak where he beat up on a bunch of up-and-comers. Obviously, the most notable, Raul Rosas Jr., which people forget too. Christian Rodriguez weighed in overweight for the Raul Rosas fight, still beat Raul Rosas. And here's the thing. You'll see guys who miss weight. And for strikers, it sucks. But for the most part, being 5 pounds heavier as a striker, I know it's a lot, but being 5 pounds heavier as a striker, like Tresean Gore was yesterday against Adolfo Vieira, it's not going to really change the fight. It's just not. Because you're still striking, obviously. As a wrestler, every pound matters. And as C-Rod, what he did in the Raul Rosas fight, even being 2.5 pounds heavier, but being able to put back that weight on quicker, affects how you fight. And you can just, again, that weight, which ultimately won the fight for C-Rod against Raul Rosas, makes the entire difference. So anyways, C-Rod beats Raul Rosas, kills off a prospect. Raul Rosas has bounced back. Just completely derails the career of Cameron Simon. Completely derails it. I had so much hope for Hatfield, Pretoria's own Cameron Simon out of South Africa. C-Rod weighs in 5 pounds over and beats him. Beats Isaac Dolgarian, another prospect. Does all of that, minus 300 favorite against Julian Erosa, and the guy gets subbed in the first round. So you're thinking, okay, first fight 2025, Austin Bashi. Okay, undefeated guy coming off the Contender Series, perfect. C-Rod beats Austin Bashi, and he beats him by decision. Not like Bashi's fraudulent. Well, I don't know. He beat John Yanis, who is not a UFC fighter, and I told you on the Best Bets video the other day that Bashi was finishing the guy in the first round, and that's absolutely what happened. Anyways, though, C-Rod beats Bashi. His last fight gets Melt Costa. Loses to Melt Costa by decision as a favorite. So, I don't understand the career of Christian Rodriguez, but if I am Andre Fili tonight, I'm getting prepared. I'm preparing myself to wrestle. I am. Now, MMA math-wise, fight makes some sense, I guess. Both these guys are coming off losses to Mazikel or Melt Costa, right? Melt Costa's just very active. He went out in February and beat Andre Fili, immediately turned his attention to Christian Rodriguez and beat both of those guys. So, I mean, that's cool. But if you're Andre Fili, right, you're really expecting to wrestle this entire bout. And yeah, C-Rod beat Julian Rosa, too, who had beaten C-Rod. So that's cool. I just don't know if Fili's going to be able to keep Rodriguez off of him, right? I guess Fili did wrestle Cub Swanson a little bit. That wasn't entirely what he did to win the fight. Well, it kind of was, because it was a split that he barely got the nod in. The weird comp I'm going to make here is Bryce Mitchell, Andre Fili. C-Rod's not as good grappling-wise and wrestling-wise as Bryce Mitchell, obviously. But that was a fight that was Halloween 2020. I'll take you back to pandemic Halloween. Nobody's trick-or-treating. You're staying outdoor. Not like I was trick-or-treating in 2020. I just want to make that very clear. But like, no one's ringing the doorbell, obviously. Sitting there, getting ready for Anderson Silva's last fight against Uriah Hall. And Andre Fili fights Bryce Mitchell on that card, and Bryce Mitchell completely dominates him on the ground. I'm not telling you C-Rod's going to do something like that, but that's going to be the game plan. C-Rod's going to try to wrestle Andre Fili because, Andre Fili, his only chance of beating C-Rod is by knocking him out, like what he did against Lucas Almeida, I believe. I know C-Rod's been trying to, improve the striking game some, but look at the Melt Costa fight, right? Like, C-Rod is going out there and simply just grappling and simply just wrestling, right? Shoots 15 takedowns in that fight against Melk Kazil Costa. That's why I just call him Melk. I think that's going to be really what wins this fight for Rodriguez. I know, again, Fili, you got to think in the Fili camp that you're preparing for that, and you know that's going to come. And I do think Fili's probably a better striker than Costa. I think he's quicker. I think he throws more, obviously, with the output just being better. But I don't expect him to go out there and prevail. I think, right, you're going to see a heavy wrestling approach out of Christian Rodriguez. And I do think he's just going to be successful in that approach as well. So I'm going to go with Christian Rodriguez here by unanimous decision. I wouldn't bank on it, though, guys. I would not bet it at all. Rodriguez, only 83% of voters picking Rodriguez on Tapology. He's a minus, 200 favorite in this fight, minus 225 favorite. I wouldn't bet it because you can never predict Christian Rodriguez fights. Because in every fight that he's supposed to win, he loses. In every fight that he's supposed to lose, he wins. So, maybe, it's the inverse theory on C-Rod. Well, okay, maybe he'll lose to Fili this time around. Statistically, though, I just don't see it. Again, theories aside and patterns aside, Rodriguez has all the skills to beat Andre Fili. He's got the wrestling to beat him. That's how you beat Fili. On the feet, yeah, Fili's might be better, but I think the pathway's easily there. I get Fili's got a really good takedown defense rate in the UFC. I get that, but really good grapplers should be able to beat Andre Fili. And I don't know if I want to put Rodriguez in the really good grappler tier, but everything that he does, it does revolve around that takedown for the most part. Like, even his strikes, obviously, everything that Rodriguez throws in the feet is to set up that takedown eventually. Even in this fight, when there are the few fights where Rodriguez doesn't shoot, it's like, all right, he is still, he's striking with the intention of eventually looking for the legs and looking for the hips, okay? I believe this is a Christian Rodriguez victory here. But if fights get weird with Rodriguez, especially in the Apex, never know what to expect. But I am going with C-Rod, Christian Rodriguez to beat Andre Touchy Fili. Going on to our featured fight of the night, one of the fights that is the toughest for me to pick on the entire card, maybe the toughest fight for me to pick on the entire card. There is still another one that's coming up very shortly. Yasmin Lucindo versus Angela Hill. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time pondering about this fight, which sounds bad because it's an Angela Hill fight. But hear me out, guys. I think I've gotten a pretty decent read on Angela Hill fights recently. Hell, I have accurately predicted each of the last 5 Angela Hill bouts. We had Mackenzie Dern to beat her. We had Angela Hill to beat Denise Gomez. I had Angela Hill to beat Luana Pineda. I had Tabitha Ricci to beat Angela Hill, and I had Ketlin Souza to lose to Angela Hill as well. So I'm 5 for 5 in the last 5 Angela Hill fights. That's pretty impressive considering how big of a 50-50 fighter she is. Hell, her record is now 18-14. She gets Yasmin Lucindo here. Why am I so split? It's because of Lucindo's last fight. It was awful. You get a main card spot on International Fight Week. No, it was not International Fight Week, but you get a main card spot in Vegas, pay-per-view, Pereira Ankalaev, a Pereira card. You were on the main card to beat Amanda Lemos. That's the only reason she was there, to beat Amanda Lemos, and you can't come through. Disgusting. You win the 3rd round, first and second you do nothing. Guys, Yasmin Lucindo did not land a strike through the first 10 minutes of that fight. because Lemos is out grappling her. I don't know, man. That's why I'm like, I'm still kind of on the fence about this pick, because I could easily see Angela Hill just wrestling her. Because if you're Angela Hill's not stupid. She's not. She's not dumb. She's a veteran. She's been there. She is 40, which isn't really going her way. Just because, again, it's hard to be a really good fighter at 40 years of age. Hell, ask Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, right? Who's still very good, but obviously, he's just getting older. He's not the same guy. But Angela Hill at this age is 1-3 of 4. Gomez, Pinheiro, Souza lost to Ricci. Man. Lucindo was ranked kind of high. She's now 8th. I don't think she should even be ranked that high after such a pitiful performance. She was so bad, but when we look at the rest of the weight class, actually, though, she probably should be ranked 8th. Now, I put Jillian Robertson ahead of her, but that's about it. Just because that weight class is so bad. Every weight class for the women suck except for 25. Damn. Which for the longest time, 25 was the horrible division. Lucindo's 23, which we do have to give her a little bit of leeway there. Like, she is so young. She's had 6 fights in the UFC and 23 professional fights at 23 years of age. That is insane. Her fights before Lemos, I mean, she looked really good in all those. Well, nah, I can't say she looked good in the Rodriguez fight. That fight was so close, and she won it. Karolina Kowalkiewicz fight, she just did enough. Polyana Viana fight, she submitted her. The Brogan Walker fight. Oh, man, I'm kind of thinking that Hill's going to win now. Going into this video and going to the prediction I was going to take Lucindo, I think I'm going to go Hill. I think I am. Because I'm just looking at Lucindo again. It's just like, Lemos fight was horrible. Rodriguez fight was closer than it should have been. Kowalkiewicz fight was good, but I mean, Angela Hill in 2025 is much better than 2024. Karolina Kowalkiewicz. By the way, Lucindo was fighting at home in that one. She got to fight in Brazil. Yeah, I think Angela Hill wins. I'm going Angela Hill by decision. Guys, here's the thing. Okay, on the feet, yes, Lucindo's better than Angela Hill. I think. I can't confidently say that. It's weird because Lucindo has gone to just straight grappler mode recently. Because you watch your first fight against Yasmini Ayargi, and you're thinking, oh, okay, this is the future of 115 pounds. And that's what Dana White coined it after the fight happened in San Diego, California. Right, they threw 2 UFC debuting fighters on the main card of that Fight Night card on ESPN. It was a really good fight. Lucindo then gets to fight Brogan Walker, though, and all right, she dominates Brogan Walker, but I think Lucindo has got better hands than she thinks she does. And that's the thing, she's hesitant on throwing a lot as well, so this goes in my prediction. Lucindo's hesitant to throw, so Angela Hill should be able to beat her to the punch. And on the ground, guys, Angela Hill's got really good takedown defense. Angela Hill's 75% takedown defense rate in the UFC. The only fighters who've been really able to really control her on the ground, Mackenzie Dern, okay, Tabitha Ricci a little bit, but you know how good Tabitha Ricci is. Look at her last fight, just knocked out. I know again, but she was controlling Hibas as well. That's a really good win, right? Ricci's good. Not many fighters control Angela Hill on the mat. I think Angela Hill's gonna beat Yasmin Lucindo. Because I don't know how Lucindo does it. I think Hill's right there with her striking. And Angela Hill, again, 75% takedown defense rate in the UFC. Not a bad wrestler in her own right. Hell, got her first finish in the UFC in about 10 years with the Luana Pinheiro finish in May of 2024. Yeah, man, I'm going Angela Hill. I'm going Angela Hill. She is 17 years older than Yasmin Lucindo. I don't care. Guys, the old vet's going to win this one. I really think, because I don't know how Lucindo wins. She wrestles Angela Hill. I think Angela Hill stuffs those takedowns. On the feet, yeah, Lucindo, again, I think got better hands than I think she has better hands than she realizes. Angela Hill's been in a bunch of fights in the feet, and she just finds ways to win. Arguably should have beaten Claudia Gadelha and Michelle Watterson on the feet. She beat Denise Gomez, which, I get it, Lucindo's better than Denise Gomez, but does feel kind of like a similar spot. And by the way, she went to Brazil and beat Denise Gomez. That's why I was so proud of my Angela Hill pick back then. I'm going Angela Hill again, guys. It's just, this is what Angela Hill does. It's kind of a joke at this point, but it's facts, man. Angela Hill just goes out there and beats prospects. She's the gatekeeper to the top 10, and she's going to gatekeep the top 10 here. And Angela Hill, guys, you might not want to hear Angela Hill, ranked fights. At least you probably don't want to hear about Angela Hill trying to make her way up the weight class at 40 years of age. But if she beats Yasmin Lucindo, yes, Angela Hill deserves a fight against Amanda Lemos next. She 100% does. Or give her Jillian Robertson. If you're sick of Angela Hill, well, Jillian Robertson probably subs her, right? Anyways, I'm going with Angela Hill to go out there and beat Yasmin Lucindo. I believe she gets it done. I think she's going to be able to stuff takedowns. I think she's going to outstrike Lucindo if it happens. I'm going to keep going with Angela Hill as an underdog. Angela Hill by unanimous decision. And now we move on to the fight that maybe is the toughest for me to pick, but it was probably just this one we talked about. Steve Erceg, Ode Osbourne. I know what you're thinking. Really? Ode Osbourne? You're having trouble with this pick? I am. You know how happy I was that Ode survived and won in his last fight, because he was going to get cut if he didn't win his last bout against Luis Gurul. Winning the fight by knockout in the second round, I was so happy for the Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne. I'm such a huge Picasso fan, man. Absolutely love the Picasso of MMA. If you've been watching the channel, obviously Greedo plays as well, the main channel. We've talked about every single Ode Osbourne fight for the most part. I'm such a huge fan of the Picasso of MMA, Ode. This is a good fight because I think he actually has a really good chance to win. I'm not going to say the prediction right now because I am still very split on it. And yes, I'm split on the fight where Steve Erceg's a minus 335 favorite and Ode Picasso's coming back at plus 285. Erceg, that last fight, he's Brandon Moreno. He loses. He looks, he loses, and the final cards all have 4-1. The fight's much closer than that. It just is. The fight's a lot closer than those cards indicate. You can make the case Steve Erceg actually wins. You can. I wouldn't make it, but I think it's 3-2. I think it is. Rewatching that bout, and okay, Erceg, and this is just Erceg's thing, right? He outstruck Pantoja, obviously, but didn't win the fight. He technically outstruck Moreno, 116-89. Erceg's whole thing is going to be volume. That's just what it is. Does he do all the most damage with a lot of these strikes? No. He got a title shot based off a knockout and the damage he did with his strikes, but that was Matt Schnell. He doesn't have a chin. Erceg's entire thing is just going to be volume. It's volume, and volume, right? Did it against Pantoja, did it against Moreno. Couldn't get the win in either of those bouts in 5-round fights, and then also fought Kai Kara-France, and Kai Kara-France knocked him out, and that's why we had to watch Kai Kara-France's title fight in 2025. Why? But I will say, Astro Boy, again, he's got pace. He's now used to fighting 5-round fights, and now he goes back to a 3-round environment. I do need to say this fight's going to be at bantamweight 135 pounds, because originally, right, this was supposed to be Steve Erceg versus Young-Sung Park, which would have been an Erceg victory. Obviously, Park went in and filled in for Amir Albazi last week to fight Tatsuro Taira in the main event. So now Ode Osbourne's in. Short notice bout. They are doing it at bantamweight. Again, I think it's a great opportunity for Ode, and I think it's a spot there that if I'm Ode and if I'm the Ode camp, I'm 100% jumping on. Obviously, they did. This is a very winnable fight for Osbourne. It just is. It's a guy who's lost 3 in a row, and Osbourne hits hard. Ode does, right? If I can give Ode anything, is that he's going to throw really hard in there. Oh, man, I really want to take Ode Osbourne. I really do. Here's the thing. Erceg is more skilled. There's no denying that. He's more skilled than Osbourne. Like, his striking's much cleaner. It's much crisper. He's faster. Ode hits harder, though. Ode hits way harder. Ode should have got the nod against Ronaldo Rodriguez. That was a dumb card. But he almost knocked down Ronaldo Rodriguez in the first round. I had easy Osbourne rounds 1 and 3. He should have won that fight. The Luis Gurul fight knocks him out. Now Ode's getting a top 10 fight, which is crazy. Guys, Ode beat Charles Johnson. Lost to Asu Almabayev, but also Almabayev is now in the top 8. Jafel Filo, and should have won the Ronaldo Rodriguez fight in the Sphere. Ode's not a bad fighter, man. Again, do I think Erceg's an all-around better striker? I do. I do think he's better, and I don't think this fight hits the mat. Osbourne has shown some wrestling. I don't think he's going to go to it, because I think Osbourne's going to be more than content of just straight-up striking with Steve Erceg. I really want to take Picasso here, because I think Picasso's got a real chance. He's going to have a much larger reach than Erceg. He's just got to land 1-2. And also, is Erceg as good as we think he is? Guys, Erceg hasn't won a fight in the UFC since March of 2024. And sure, he's fought Pantoja, France, Kai Kara-France, and Moreno, but wins over David Dvorak, Alessandro Costa, and Matt Schnell. How much do we really want to put in those fights? And yes, Osbourne's taking the fight on short notice, but here's the thing. Osbourne doesn't have to cut weight. Erceg was preparing for Hyun-Sung Park, which is a much different fight than Ode Osbourne. Hyun-Sung Park's going to wrestle you. Osbourne, he's got nothing to lose. Yes, Ode, if he had lost to Luis Gurul, he was going to get cut. Now Osbourne's in a fight where if he beats Steve Erceg, you're a top 10 fighter. I'm so split, man. I'm so split. Because although I do think Erceg, I can see a world where Erceg just pieces Osbourne up for 15 minutes, I also see a world where Ode Osbourne just knocks out Steve Erceg in the first round. Because here's the thing, guys. When Ode loses, he gets out-grappled. Ronaldo Rodriguez, Jafel Filo, Asu Almabayev. Not Manel Kopp, but that's Manel Kopp. Tyson Nam, I'm going to forget about that fight. I don't think Erceg's just going to sit down on a punch and knock out Osbourne, especially because of the way he's lost to Kai Kara France. And that's the thing. Kai Kara France knocked out Steve Erceg in the first round. I'm going Ode Osbourne first round knockout against Steve Erceg. Oh, this might be one of the most ambitious picks I've ever made. And out there picks I've ever made. But yeah, I'm doing it. Because Osbourne's going to have a 5-inch reach advantage here. I just think it's going to make it really tough on Erceg to fight the fight he wants to fight. Because I think every time he's going to try to close distance, there's the Osbourne jab. There's the Osbourne cross. I don't know, man. I like Osbourne quite a bit in this bout. I do. I think the value's great on Ode. Tapology, 95% of voters are going with Erceg, 5% are going with Osbourne. Again, I want to bring up this point. Erceg was preparing for a grappler. Now he's fighting at 135 pounds. Osbourne's going to be bigger, and Osbourne is just going to hit harder at 135. Ode is one of the few guys at 125 pounds, now obviously bantamweight in this one, who does have legitimate knockout power. And look at every single fight Osbourne has lost in the UFC, with the exception of Nam and Manel Kopp. Okay? We're going to forget about the Nam fight because it doesn't fit my agenda. But Kelleher, Almabayev, Filo, and Rodriguez, they all out-grappled Ode. They all look to wrestle Ode. I guarantee you Steve Erceg, that's just not who he is and not what he does. He's not going to wrestle Osbourne. So Ode in this fight, and again, in a battle, in a spot where Osbourne has nothing to lose, because he's not getting cut if he loses, right? There was a potential where if he lost to Garul, he's probably getting cut. He's not going to get cut if he loses this. He saved the UFC's ass on this one, short notice, up a weight class. Obviously, Erceg's fighting up a weight class too. But he's doing them a favor, co-main event. He's not getting cut here. Osbourne gets the opportunity to break into the top 10 for the first time in his career at 135 pounds, where he doesn't have to cut weight, as much weight. Ooh, I'm taking Picasso. I'm taking the Picasso of MMA, Ode Osbourne, to knock out Steve Erceg in the first round. Again, I think Erceg's really good. I do think so. I do question, though. You've lost 3 fights in a row, and stylistically, this fight's actually really dangerous for him. Because unlike Pantoja, unlike Moreno, there is no threat of a takedown for Erceg. I get that. But it's a pure stand-up battle. It's a pure stand-up fight, and Osbourne has nothing to deal with that either. I don't know. I just think all things considered, Osbourne's going to be way bigger. He just is. Like, Osbourne's going to put on way more weight. Even after he makes 135 pounds, he's not cutting as much. Obviously, I think he's going to be able to put on the weight a lot better. Osbourne's got nothing to lose. Osbourne's just going to hit harder at 135 pounds. And I really think the reach advantage for Osbourne's going to give Erceg a lot of trouble. I just think it does. Because Osbourne's going to be able to fling that jab out. I'm going Picasso of MMA by first round knockout. Give me the Jamaican sensation, the Picasso of mixed martial arts, Ode Osbourne, to pick up the biggest win of his career. I'm taking a huge underdog on this card. I understand 5% of Tapology voters are voting for Ode Osbourne. I am going with Ode Osbourne. Osbourne first round knockout in the co-main event. I can't believe I just did that. Okay, main event, Roman Dolidze, Anthony Fluffy Hernandez. Roman Dolidze at 37 years of age is still main eventing cards. Oh, well, he's coming off the Vettori victory. Oh man, Roman Dolidze, who took JP Base's wife, bro. That's crazy. Like, oh brother, that's damn. Yeah, that's crazy, dude. He took JP Base's wife. She doesn't fight anymore, and now she's got a kid with this guy. And she didn't even, I don't think she even married her Dolidze. God, man. Just, yeah, man. That's brutal, you know? But, like, hey, it's JP Bays, you know? Like, I mean, you can be Tom Brady and she'll still leave you. You can be Puka Nakua, she'll still leave you. Anyways, don't get me started. Yeah, that's the first thing that was pops into my mind about Roman Dolidze. Anyways, fighting-wise, Dolidze has won 3 fights in a row. Okay, beat Anthony Smith, a horrible fight. Beat Kevin Holland, Holland got hurt. And beat Marvin Vettori. Vettori looked like shit in that fight. Okay, he just did. Vettori's looked like shit since he's come back. Dolidze outstrikes Marvin Vettori. Again, Vettori's not been that same guy since that absolute beating he took against Jared Cannonier. Dolidze had lost back-to-back fights against Vettori the first time around, then Nasruddin Imavov. Which actually, like, again, Dolidze's last loss is Imavov, who's about to fight Borjaio for the number 1 contender spot. I just think the fight's really tough for Dolidze. How is he going to stuff takedowns from Anthony Hernandez? Because here's the thing. Okay. Dolidze does have a wrestling background. I do understand that. Does have that heel hook that he always tried in the regional scene. Fluffy's going to be so persistent on the takedown here, which I just think really makes it tough on Roman Dolidze. This will be constant. And I do think the style that Anthony Hernandez fights in a 5-round environment is really difficult. It just is. Again, look back at Fluffy's last 5-round fight. Michel Pereira in the Apex, October of last year. Hernandez wins it by 5th round TKO. He breaks Michel Pereira in that fight. Significant strike tally in favor of Anthony Hernandez is 152-24. Takes down Pereira 10 times, goes 10 for 29 in the takedowns, and 16 minutes of control before the eventual finish in that 5th round. The guy's a problem in the weight class. He is. Because Fluffy's only losses at 185 pounds is Kevin Holland. Oh, Marcus Perez. Why'd you lose to Marcus Perez? Whatever. Okay? He's on a huge winning streak. When he beat Adolfo Vieira, that changed the man's career, right? He has now won 7 straight fights. The run he's on right now, Kopylov by submission, Michel Pereira by TKO, an exhaustion TKO, and Brendan Allen in Seattle. Now it's a run. Now it's one hell of a run. The Brendan Allen win's good. It's not eventful, but what does Anthony Hernandez do? Do what he does to everybody and just mauls them on the ground. He's got the gas tank. He's willing to go out there and just chain wrestle for 25 minutes if needed. And that's what makes this fight really tough on Roman Dolidze. Because now Dolidze is going to be looking for the knockout at all points in this fight. Because he does not want to get stuck and just, oh crap, I'm on my back again against Anthony Hernandez. Because that's ultimately what Fluffy's going to try to do and probably will do against Roman Dolidze. I will never rely on Roman Dolidze's power. He's always got that spinning back fist. Don't forget. Again, we'll never forget watching Roman Dolidze film on the regional scene when I was getting excited for him versus Hadias Ibrahimov back in the day. Only for Dolidze to eventually lose to Trevin Giles, and I thought he was done. But anyways, Dolidze doesn't stand a chance on the ground against Hernandez. He's going to throw everything and the kitchen sink at Hernandez on the feet, because I don't think Dolidze wants this fight to go very long, because if it does, it's just going to be an exhausting type of fight. Because here's the thing. Hernandez, he's so good at getting a takedown, and oh, by the way, he's so good at just holding you down. Like, that's why Michel Pereira gassed so quickly, because, okay, when Hernandez would take him down, Michel Pereira would fight, scratch, and claw back to his feet, and boom, you're getting dumped again. I'm not telling you the same exact thing's going to happen to Dolidze, but I kind of do think it is at the same time. I just think I think Hernandez is a problem for a lot of guys at 185 pounds. And the reason why he's in the Apex is because he's not exciting. Yes, they give him the main event spot, but the UFC doesn't want Hernandez anywhere close to the belt. Now, does he beat the top guys? No. Does he beat Adrigas Duplessis? No. Does he beat Hamza Chimaev? No. Does he beat Nasruddin Imavov? Probably not. Does he beat Karo Borjayo? I don't think. Reinier de Ridder? Probably not. Does he beat Whitaker? Does he beat Jared Cannonier? Does he beat Paulo Costa? Yeah, he probably does. I just don't think he's in that next tier with a Reinier de Ridder, with a Sean Strickland. Ooh. I think Strickland would beat Hernandez still. I think he would. He's out for the rest of the year, probably, on suspension. Borjayo Hernandez is actually really interesting. If Borjayo loses to Imavov, that has to be the fight. Yeah, it's going to have to be. Actually, whoever loses that fight should probably fight Hernandez next. So if it is Imavov, which I think it's going to be Imavov to win, but we'll see. It's because in France, too. Whoever loses the Imavov-Borjayo fight should be looking to fight Hernandez next. Or could give him Jared Cannonier if he beats MVP. Could do that, too. Anyways, though, I think he's such a tough fight for a lot of guys because the gas tank's there, the grappling's so good, and the wrestling's so good. Striking-wise, is Anthony Hernandez going to blow you away? No, he's not. That's not what he does. On the ground, he's going to throw a bunch. And sure, Dolidze striking-wise is not good. He throws a lot of output, and he was able to output Marvin Vettori. He outstruck Anthony Smith. I don't think Dolidze's that good. I've never thought he's that good. Like, maybe when he knocked out Pasternak on the regional scene, I got really excited for his spinning back fists, before his UFC debut against Ibrahimov. He's not that good, dude. He's just not. His best win's the Jack Hermanson victory when he trapped Hermanson's leg, he trapped his arm and just went to town, obviously, on him. Dolidze, he won't be able to stuff the takedowns out of Hernandez. He just won't. And Hernandez will go out there. He will have a wrestling heavy approach. And ultimately, he's going to win the fight. He'll break Dolidze eventually. I mean, look how gassed Dolidze was in the Imava fight when he went the full 25. And sure, that's not the same in the Vettori bout, but there was no threat of the takedown on that one. He was controlling the bout. He was dominating it. And it was a guy that ultimately, yes, Dolidze is better than. He is better than Vettori in 2025. Or I guess it was in 2020. No, it wasn't 2025. I'm going Anthony Hernandez 4th round TKO. I think, again, it's just an accumulation of damage. I think eventually he will get Dolidze out of there. I just don't think Dolidze is able to offer anything back. I think Dolidze's best moments will come in the first round if he does have any moments. But eventually, yes, it's just going to be an eventual takeover from Anthony Fluffy Hernandez, and he will win the bout. So I'm going to go with Fluffy to win the fight by 4th round TKO. Wrestling's too good. He's a stylistic nightmare for a lot of guys, and nobody wants to see Anthony Hernandez right now in their bracket. It's going to be the American Anthony Hernandez to close out the night. Folks, thank y'all for watching our UFC Fight Night Dolidze versus Hernandez full card predictions. Took some big dogs in this card. Angela Hill, Ode Osbourne to close the bout, or close the night. Not going to lie to you, I was very split on both of those, but I ended up going with the dogs instead of the favorites. I really think Ode's got a shot this weekend. Nothing to lose. I'm cheering for you, Picasso. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. We'll be back tomorrow for our PFL Africa Johannesburg full card predictions, PFL Africa 2. Make sure to join us for our UFC best bets likely on Wednesday as well. Folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. And Mamba forever.